What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do? What could you reveal without getting in trouble?
I'm just sharing truth, but truth is treason in the empire of lies, they say.
Why do you think the state is trying to buy 5-6 years of your time while they're inconveniencing you? What do you think they're trying to figure out?
Because they know that if they take us to trial, they'll lose. They're able to compartmentalize everybody so nobody can actually see the forest through the trees and get the big picture.
Right.
And that's why the biggest secret is so important.
I want you to explain the big secret.
I love explaining the big secret.
We can go on with the interview after the big secret.
Well, guys, we are here with Joby Weeks, and his case is taking another turn. He's literally tired. He doesn't want to wear this ankle bracelet. I don't blame him. He's been wearing it for how long? For 5 years. And you basically filed a bunch of motions. I basically made one into a recording. I was listening to it on the airplane all the way over here, quite lengthy. But you filed something else. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do? What could you reveal without getting in trouble?
Ha! Well, I've crossed the Rubicon. There's no going back. So I'm just sharing truth, but truth is treason in the empire of lies, they say. So hoping God has my back. What I've done, and I wrote it out here, is I'm taking these people to task. I'm suing them for $22.2 billion, or 200,000 Bitcoins, for failing to uphold the oath they took to the U.S. and state constitutions and warring against it, breach of trust, attacking a beneficiary of a constructive trust you were unlawfully administering, breach of your fiduciary duties, invalid and unlawful warrants issued resulting in a false arrest and unlawful searches and seizures, absent probable cause, not supported by oath or affirmation, and blatant violation of the Constitution, fraudulent charges predicated on unsworn petitions by prosecuting attorneys, defamation of rights for a trial by jury, confiscation and theft of property without due process, physical, mental, and psychological torture, denial of bail for non-capital offenses, denial of a speedy trial, coercion to accept a plea bargain under circumstances of torture, and 11 months of unlawful incarceration without a trial, without the right to face my accusers, cruel and unusual punishment, crimes against humanity, unlawful conversion of me into a person, which is a fictitious entity, human trafficking, and treason. And there's probably 17 more things that they broke too.
Sure, but typically the way it happens is if the government has the goods on you, usually you get a pretty speedy trial within a year's time. You're in court, you're facing a judge, you're facing the prosecutor, they're picking a jury if it's a jury trial. This did not happen to you.
No, that's because we harmed nobody, caused no victims, there's no injured party, there's no one was standing to sue. And for there to be a crime, there's got to be a victim.
Why do you think the state is trying to buy 5-6 years of your time while they're inconveniencing you? What do you think they're trying to figure out? Obviously, they think maybe they have delusions of grandeur. They already took the Bitcoin. It's not like they're giving it back, right? You have to sue the state.
I'm trying to get it back right now.
Yeah, but you sue the state, but they got access to the Bitcoin. They probably spent it on mansions and airplanes and helicopters and boats. Probably had a party. Bought a lot of champagne.
We noticed that a lot of the Bitcoin they confiscated, they didn't report on the asset seizure list. And last time some agents did that, they went to jail. There are guys, you can look it up, guys for the Silk Road case, confiscated a bunch of Silk Road Bitcoin and never turned it into the government. They just kept the Bitcoin and they went to jail for it.
So at this point, you decided you're going to punch back and the gloves are off and you don't give a shit.
No, I don't care. I'm totally innocent, so I feel like the truth will prevail, especially under the Trump administration now. This was Biden lawfare, and he's out. So they're cleaning house. That's what I'm told. That's what I'm seeing. I hear what Pam Bondi's doing, Alina. We got Kash Patel there in the FBI. We got new SEC guys, new Treasury guys. It's like the dream team. Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce. It goes on and on. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK. I'm so excited and watching what Elon Musk is doing. Elon is saying now what I've been saying for 20 years. And I think they got mad at me because that's what I was doing, is I was exposing a lot of corruption and challenging the status quo, and they wanted to put me in timeout for a little bit.
The timeout is 6 years.
I know. I know. Well, when this all happened, I didn't even know who was mad at me. Is it the tobacco cartel, the pharmaceutical cartel, the oil cartel, the banking cartel? I've been like, funding all these disruptive technologies in all these spaces. And so it's, being a libertarian, it was always kind of hard because the Republicans didn't like you too much, and neither did the Democrats. I went out and I was the guy that legalized cannabis here in Colorado. I got all the signatures and put it up on it was a petition or a ballot initiative. We got it on the ballot, and Breckenridge voted yes to legalize it. We were the first, town in all of America to legalize cannabis. We took it to the other 64 counties, and it was called Prop 64, and Colorado became the first state. So, the Republicans did not like me for that. They reversed an election I won to get me out when I was vice chairman of the entire county. They actually nullified their own election just to get me out. They tried to block me from being a national delegate to the convention. So there's shenanigans on both sides. They didn't like Ron Paul. So the Democrats, they saw me as a libertarian going up against the Republican machine. And so they were like supporting me, right? And then as I go up against the Democrat machine, now the Republicans are helping me out. And I'm the guy in the middle like, can't we all just get along?
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think the outcome of this case is going to be an innocent outcome? And based on what you're cooking right now, I don't know what you're allowed to reveal, what you're not allowed to reveal. What do you think that a favorable time frame would be for this thing to come off, the case get dismissed, and then you have to work on figuring out a way to get your Bitcoin back, right? Which is a lot of Bitcoin.
Well, I put most all the stuff. I had a couple things to update on jobyweeks.com. So if you're interested in following what I have filed to the docket, February 5th, I fired the lawyers, or officially. I fired them in January. Mm-hmm. But the day Trump got elected was the day I was like, yes, we're going to end the lawfare. And I knew Trump didn't like the lawfare because they were trying to throw him in jail. They tried to kill the guy. So I was like, oh, this guy can relate with me a little bit. I was in jail before the January 6ers, and they got convicted, thrown in jail, and released. I still haven't even had a trial still.
Interesting.
It's taken longer for these guys to put together a trial than it took to go through high school. You remember how long it took to go through high school? You had freshman year and homecoming and the football games and prom and then summer break and all the tests and sophomore year, junior, senior year, all those tests you took, graduation. They haven't even been able to put together a trial of case for one case in the time it takes to go through high school. They obviously have nothing. It's a frivolous case. They all know it. A bunch of the prosecutors have quit. We've gone through like 4 U.S. attorneys for the district. Everybody's just kicking the can down the road because they know that if they take us to trial, they'll lose. So they're just trying to just keep me in purgatory forever and ever and ever on an ankle bracelet on house arrest where I can't go anywhere or do anything, have a bank or use crypto or have a phone or a computer. I can't even touch the remote controller to watch Netflix. I can't have guests. You guys, technically you guys are breaking the rules even being here. I can't, go to church. I can't go to the gym. I get drug tested. This case had nothing to do with drinking. I can't drink alcohol, which is fine. I don't drink anyways. I'm on my biohacking wellness kick. But the point is, it's ridiculous. They've been trying to throw me in jail for other stupid stuff, bail violations. I went to a steakhouse on the way home from the airport after seeing my attorneys, and I was home an hour early. But because I stopped by a steakhouse because Dad wanted to get me a steak and celebrate, they literally submitted a motion to revoke my bail to throw me in jail for that. These people are just... They need Jesus.
They need probably.
They need Jesus, man. I'm not mad. I'm full of joy. I'm full of love. I want justice, but I've vibrated up past all of this, and I'm just sharing love and truth. And look, truth comes in 3 phases. It's not believed. People laugh at, it's Bitcoin, it's magical internet money, it's for computer nerds and gamers, And then it's violently opposed. That's kind of where I took all the arrows, right? There was no BlackRock, no Goldman Sachs. There was not a strategic Bitcoin reserve when they came after me. But now it's self-evident. Everybody's getting in. The states are getting in. All these countries are getting in, and so it's time to just drop this thing. The SEC has... changed its stance. 18 states had to sue the SEC. They've just come out saying Bitcoin mining isn't a security. I've been saying that since day one We're selling physical Bitcoin mining hardware. We're selling physical equipment. It's a product. You can depreciate it. You can take delivery of it, mine crypto from home, or host it in the data centers and get cheaper power. I mean, Amazon's hosting AWS, Dropbox, Google. They're all doing what I was doing. Well, like how on earth can I get in trouble, but they don't get in trouble? It's total selective prosecution, and it's illegal what they're doing. Just read the motions that I filed to the docket. You'll be blown away.
Well, I think personally, I think you'll agree. I think we're being run by a Marxist government entity, if you will, and I don't understand or understand why this has been, allowed to go on for so long. Obviously, they did a great job with distracting us with all the game hosts and, the Price is Right and let's make a stupid fucking deal.
Give them circus and bread.
Right? Yeah. It's been nonsense. And then we send our kids to school, and we were having a conversation yesterday about flat Earth or round Earth, and you believe it's round, and I'm saying I don't know, because it warrants the answer to be answered that way, because they have really literally taught us a bunch of nonsense. You got a bunch of people who know nothing, we're teaching nothing, and we're learning nothing. We're paying taxes to learn nothing.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? I was the same way, but that's why I don't believe what the media says about any country. I get on an airplane and I fly there, and that's why I went to 175 countries. I wanted to see firsthand. I wanted to walk around and meet the locals. I didn't know about Antarctica, so I literally flew to Antarctica, landed on Union Glacier, did a bunch of hikes, go climb Mount Vincent, the highest mountain there. I took a flight to the South Pole. It was $35,000 a night to stay at the South Pole. So I only stayed one night. But, I saw it. I did the GPS. I went every direction was north. I went to the North Pole, did the same thing. I wanted to find out, just so, it's not hard to do. You just got to find a product or service that the market needs and provide it, and then you're rewarded. Mm-hmm. And the more problems you solve, the more money you make, and then you take your money and go find out for yourself. You can't, with the deep fakes, this AI stuff and all that, people don't know. They're not taught. Everybody's compartmentalized, which is what the biggest secret is. I see this notepad. I was telling you I should draft up the biggest secret, because that's why everybody is compartmentalized and no one's shared with them the secret. Yeah,
we're gonna do the biggest secret. Joby's biggest secret. But before we do that, do you think that there's an unwritten law that basically talk about it behind closed doors, the big wigs, the people who don't want to see humanity thrive? You think there's an unwritten law that basically says, no, we don't want people like Joby Weeks or Mel Carmine's to be the next ruling class, because there's going to be hell to pay, because
everybody will be free.
They would be free, but the people who have enslaved us realize that they're not going to get away with it, because people like you and I, we might be nice guys and you're a bubbly guy, but at the end of the day, they say payback's a bitch, right? So do you think that they're afraid that we would absolutely destroy their lives the way they tried to destroy our lives for the last 100 years?
Well, I believe using force, fraud, and coercion is illegitimate. I believe that all human interaction should be voluntary. And so, I'm not going to force my beliefs on anybody, but I would appreciate it if they would not force their beliefs on me either. Mm-hmm. Your rights end where my rights begin. And so the government's role is to protect our rights and to enforce contracts. And it's not to take care of us from cradle to grave. And yes, I do think that there's a shadow elite, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the CFR guys, the World Economic Forum guys. I mean, they have to create a framework, so they can have a feeder organization to capture those positions of power, because none of these people live forever. They have to replace themselves, and we surround them. And so they constantly have to have this feeder organization to capture the positions in the media and government and NGOs and various parliaments around the world. And that's what WEF is doing. And all we need to do is copy it, create our own framework, push out our own people that are enlightened. William Colby of the CIA said that we know our mission is complete when everything the American people know is false. Everything is inverted. And so that's what they fear, is those who know the truth, who have been initiated, and who spilled beans. And luckily, I've met a lot of these people. I grew up as a privileged birth into a family that, my great-grandfather, like we were saying before, it was Secretary of War under Presidents Harding and Coolidge, and bankers, Federal Reserve Act. They funded Lockheed Martin and Boeing and started the Council on Foreign Relations. And his son, my great-grandfather, was Secretary of Commerce under Eisenhower. And business guys. You know, my dad became a Christian school teacher and a ski bum, and came to Colorado and met my mom in steamboats. So that's how we got here to Colorado. But it's in the blood. I went to private schools. I rubbed shoulders with a lot of the ruling class. I've been to Davos. I've been to the Nobel Prize. I protested with Alex Jones at a dozen, Bilderberg conferences around the world, and I was the title sponsor there in Oslo for the Nobel Prize. I went to the Vatican, met the Pope. I rubbed shoulders with these guys. I've talked with these guys. At Necker Island, I was with Hernando de Soto. He wrote The Mystery of Capital and a bunch of other great books. I hope one day he'll be president of Peru. And he told me when we were sitting there, he yelled at me, he said, "I think you and I are the only anarchists here." And I'm like, isn't that fun? They always say, what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist? It's about 6 months of reading, because you want to be congruent in all your beliefs. That's why Ron Paul's book, Liberty Defined, is so important, was because it gives you a congruent worldview and philosophy that can't be challenged, and it's morally superior and perfect. The reason I say that it's morally superior is because any issue that comes up at the Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner table with your uncles and aunts and people that you don't see very often, it inevitably comes up, politics or religion or something comes up. And the easiest way to just say, look, whatever the issue is, I always ask, well, is it voluntary? Because if it's not voluntary, it's illegitimate. So they want this and free that, and do this and that, have government be their nanny. And I say, well, I'm for voluntary interaction between consenting humans, adults, and I believe that it's illegitimate to use force, fraud, and coercion to get your way. And your worldview or philosophy requires force and violence. Mine doesn't, making mine morally superior than yours. And so then I just tell them that they're evil and they should stop doing these. They should change their evil ways. They don't like being called that. That's one of the things I got in trouble for, because I kept on saying, oh, these child trafficking, devil worshipping pedophiles, they don't like being called child trafficking pedophiles. So maybe,
even though that's what they are.
Well, I know, obviously. Look at Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein, all these Hollywood elites and all the things that are coming out now. It's crazy.
Yeah, who was that guy that was in Hollywood where he was up at the podium and there were, I think, the Oscar Awards, and he basically...
The comedian, that British guy? He's hilarious.
Hysterical. He basically read him the riot act using comedy, which was brilliant.
Well, they say if you're going to tell the truth, you got to make the people laugh, otherwise they'll kill you.
Right.
So, you definitely want to do it with a smile. George Carlin was really good at that.
George was one of that.
Same with Alex Jones lookalike, that comedian, whatever his name was, he was pretty good too. But no, it's important to do. That's why the meme war is winning, because the left can't meme. They can't meme. They don't have the big balls, supercomputer hackers. They don't have the guys that do the DOGE. They don't have any of that. No, and it's such a. They're historically illiterate. It's like they haven't learned anything the last 100 years. Their philosophy's been tried all over the place, and all it produces is
it doesn't work. This control freakness. You go and buy a house that's in an HOA. It's like high school 2.0. It's like all the freaks who are like to be in control and power.
HOAs are like Nazi concentration camps.
It is. It's like
I can't stand
it. It doesn't stop. It's just like it's a continuation of high school 2.0, 3.0 throughout life. You got all these control freaks, and we need these guys to get the hell out of our lives. We want freedom. We want total freedom. We want people to become billionaires. We want people to become extremely healthy. We want people to live to be 1,000 years old. We want people to be able to.
I want my UFO.
Your flying saucer?
Give me my UFO. I'm trying to fly in airplanes.
Yeah, you're not the only one. Believe me. I mean, I used to love to travel. Now I dread it because it's like
we're talking about getting rid of the TSA. That'd be nice. Huh?
I mean, they stole my razor blades yesterday. When I came here to the airport, they stole my straight razors to shave my beard. They said, these are illegal. I says, they're illegal. I says, they're in the package. They're not on the actual, mechanism where to shave, right? No, this is illegal.
But the Bic razor blades have razor blades on them too.
Exactly. It makes no sense. But anyway,
it just don't make any sense.
And I do believe that they steal all that shit and use it. They don't. But they're going to throw it away, right? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
So we're living in this distorted reality, if you will.
Inverted.
Yeah, and they are in control to some extent still, and we're trying to get rid of them all. How long do you think this is going to take? I mean, you're trying to battle them on your own, based on your own situation with your ankle bracelet. I can see it there a little bit. Is that uncomfortable? I got to ask you. Is that really?
It is, and I haven't been able to go swimming. I can't sit in a hot tub. It's
oh, why? It will short out?
Yeah, I've already broken like 4 of them. They're like, if you break another one, we're sending you to jail. I'm
my God.
Yeah. Okay, sorry about that.
But that's because you have all these
P90 things that
you got all these frequency devices.
I was like, oh my God, they're calling me 2 a.m. You need to go to the courthouse, swap out your ankle bracelet. I'm like, don't send the SWAT team. I'm still here.
Oh my God, unbelievable.
But Thomas Jefferson said it well. He said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. So it comes down with walls in everybody's minds. And that's why when you help people to see the truth, they're not compartmentalized. Compartmentalization is a big thing. Like, I'm on a need-to-know basis. That's classified. That's above my pay grade. And so they're able to compartmentalize everybody so nobody can actually see the forest through the trees and get the big picture.
Right.
And that's why the biggest secret is so important.
Why don't you explain to us the big secret?
I want you to explain the big secret.
I love explaining the big secret.
We can go on with the interview after the big secret.
Okay. We got this blank whiteboard here. I've never actually done it on a whiteboard, but
there you go.
I was intrigued because I'm trying to consolidate 30,000 pages of law that I read into one page. And I've been pretty good over the years to try to take complex things and make them simple. But like I was saying about compartmentalization, who's compartmentalized? Well, doctors, right? Doctors, you got your endocrinologists, you got your immunologists, you got your cardiologists. They're good at the cardiovascular system and the endocrine system and the immune system, but they just have their specialties. They don't really see the body as a whole system where everything needs to be flowing, synergistically. And they don't know how to cure anything. The medical doctors that go through medical school, all they know is give you the drugs for these disease symptoms.
Right.
You got diabetes? Well, insulin. You got arthritis? Celebrex. You got allergies? Clarinex, right? None of the drugs actually go to fix the root cause of why you're sick in the first place.
Correct.
They just go to manage the symptoms. And if you have natural, non-toxic pharmaceutical grade products without any side effects, it can never become standard of care, so insurance won't cover it, and doctors can't recommend it because their malpractice insurance only covers standard of care. So if you don't have a deadly, debilitating, destructive, addictive, toxic pharmaceutical drug with side effects, it can never be FDA approved. You got the natural stuff, they don't approve it. So crazy.
It is crazy.
Lawyers are compartmentalized. Why do I say that? Well, you got your traffic lawyers and the family court lawyers. You got the military lawyers and the criminal lawyers and the securities lawyers. There's a million different lawyers. And they all have all their specialties too. And they have to be because the statutes at large, titles 1 to 50, are 250,000 pages long. You got 250,000 pages. If you read for 10 hours a day, it would take you 10 years to read the law once. That's just federal. That's not state laws or city laws or, dude.
Yeah.
What lawyer
Nobody.
or judge has read
Not
10 hours a day for 10 years? They don't know the law.
Right.
The Bar Association, which is why the 13th Amendment, one of the 13th Amendments, right? The Constitution of the United States, Constitution for the United States, right? We got the 13th Amendment that bans slavery. The other 13th Amendment bans titles of nobility like esquires or lawyers from holding office. Why? Because they don't want a supra organization from Britain called the Bar Association to control the executive branch and the congressional branch and the judicial branch,
Correct.
Which is what they do now. The bar controls it all. Their people are in all the positions.
Right.
And then they compartmentalize all these guys so they can control and enslave everybody else. Bars are foreign. It's British.
Yeah.
So that's why, the founders were like, no lawyers. If you're a lawyer out there, well, here you're going to love this. This is, but everybody really is compartmentalized, not just lawyers. I'll put everyone. Joe the plumber. Remember Joe the plumber?
Yeah.
Joe the plumber was told that George Washington was the first president of the United States, right?
That's not
That's
true.
what you were told. That's what you were
That's
told,
a
right?
bullshit story.
Yeah, there were 10 presidents of the United States before George Washington.
Yeah.
Under the Articles of Confederation from 1776 to 1787, we had 10 presidents. Arthur Sinclair, Thomas Mifflin, Thomas McKean, Elias Monet, and John Hanson. And then George Washington became the 11th president of the United States in 1789, first under the Constitution, but the 11th president of the United States. So I always got to thinking, well, what is this United States that they're talking about? Because out of the 250,000 pages of law, they mention the United States quite often. Wouldn't you want to know which United States they're talking about? Because in Hooven Allison versus Evatt, they gave us 3 different definitions of 3 different United States. Okay? Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll erase that, and I'll put the United States. So number 1, USA, is the country of the United States. This is the biggest secret. What's the country made up of? The 50 states of the Union and the territories, possessions, and enclaves. I call this the Fed Zone United States. So, the second United States is the 50 states of the Union only, and it excludes the territories, possessions, and enclaves. And the third United States is the Fed Zone United States, and it excludes the 50 states of the Union. So there's 3 different United States. And when you're reading the law, they don't really tell you which one they're talking about. I mean, they do, but it's like in the definitions section 47 pages later. You know, they call it legalese or words of art, where a pink Ferrari means a yellow Volkswagen Bug. So you got to look at the definitions because they use words. They're very deceptive. Yeah. These guys are smart. Now, what are the differences? Well, the 50 states of the Union, California, Colorado, and Florida. If you're born there, you're what's called an 8 U.S.C. 1101 A21 American national. If you were born in Puerto Rico or Guam, Samoa, the Virgin Islands, the Northern Mariana Islands, or Washington, D.C., you're an 8 U.S.C. 1401 U.S. citizen. So there's Americans here, U.S. citizens here. This flag is red, white, and blue. This flag is red, white, and blue with gold fringes. This is the Republic of Texas, right? They invert everything. There's the Republic of Texas, the de jure constitutional
confusing
republic,
on purpose.
There's the state of Texas, this de facto corporate state, right? They've got lawful money versus legal tender, right? You read the Constitution, lawful money is gold and silver.
Right.
Why do we have Federal Reserve notes?
Exactly.
Treasury Secretary, Secretary of Treasury. State of California, California State. Right? So they've created these illusionary, it's inverse, it's upside down, and it's meant to distract and deceive us from how things truly work. It's kind of how they, if you really want to restore the Republic, you have to dissolve the de facto corporate state. So Congress legislates for 2 entities. One is called the federal government that handles business amongst the 50 states of the Union. When you read the Constitution, it's pretty clear. Anything that comes into the country, the tariffs, the duties, the customs, the imports, all that, federal. Anything that crosses state lines, like the money crosses state lines. So if you're busted counterfeiting, that's a federal crime. The mail crosses state lines, so mail fraud would be a federal crime. Patents, trademarks, copyrights, that's all federal. And that's it. Everything else was reserved for the states or the people per the 9th and 10th Amendments to the Constitution. However, Congress also legislates for the national government. So federal government here, national government here. What does the national government do? That handles business amongst the territories, possessions, and enclaves. And under the national government, they're not bound by the chains of the Constitution. They can do whatever the heck they want in Puerto Rico and Guam, okay? So Congress, now when they're legislating, how can you tell who those new laws are directed towards? U.S. citizens living in the Fed zone or Americans living in the 50 states of the Union? How can you tell? I've asked this question to dozens of lawyers. They can't tell me the answer.
Because they don't know.
It's the biggest secret.
They don't know.
Here's how, of course they don't know. They're compartmentalized. They're not supposed to know. It's above their pay grade. They're on a need-to-know basis. It's classified.
Exactly.
It's not really. You just have to be able to read and comprehend what you're reading. But here's how this works. If Congress passes an act, a bill, a statute, and the president signs it into law, if that law has a corresponding regulation that's been published in the Federal Registrar, giving the public reasonable notice that this law applies to them, then that's called positive law, and it applies everywhere in the country, both the 50 states of the Union and the Fed zone. But if that statute does not have a corresponding regulation that's been published in the Federal Registrar, giving the public reasonable notice that this law applies to them, then that is not positive law, and it only applies to U.S. citizens and employees of the federal government, people in the military, in the territories, possessions, and enclaves. It doesn't apply to everyone, just these guys. When Joe Biden makes an executive order, it doesn't apply to everybody, just people in the Fed zone, right? I mean, Congress clearly makes the law according to the Constitution, not the president. So executive orders don't even apply, right, to everybody. So knowing that, I wanted to know, out of the 250,000 pages of law, titles 1 to 50, how many of those titles are positive law? You want to know?
Tell me.
27. That means, no, 23 are positive law, 27 are not. Well, what are the big ones? Well, Title 15, the Securities Act, only applies to U.S. citizens, doesn't apply to Americans. Title 26, the income tax, only U.S. citizens have to pay income taxes. Americans don't, only U.S. citizens do. Title 42, the Social Security Ponzi scam, only U.S. citizens can participate in the Ponzi scam. Americans can't. Title 50, the draft, you can only draft U.S. citizens. You can't draft Americans. So then how are they able to superimpose Fed zone laws onto people that live and work in the 50 states of the Union? How are they able to do that? That's the next question. Mm-hmm. Let me get the eraser. I thought you'd never ask. Okay, let's see here. We'll start here. Let's look at the chain of command. God creates mankind with rights. Okay? Men and women create the families. The families create the towns and cities. Cities and towns create the states. And the states got together and created the federal government, not the other way around. Okay, what did the federal government create? The U.S. Citizen Franchise. Now, U.S. citizens have no rights. They only have privileges. Okay? So it's the fall of man. So mankind, men and women, are born with rights, and then they give up those rights for a bowl of porridge, benefits they call it. And they give them up and they become U.S. citizens. You have to apply to become a U.S. citizen. And now you fill this office within government. You're an officer of the office, or the franchisee of the franchise, or the trustee of this trust. And now you have to get licenses to do everything because you have no rights. U.S. citizens have to get licenses to hunt and fish and practice law and medicine and drive and go get married. You know, licenses are to give you permission to do something which would otherwise be illegal. It's not illegal to get married, so why would you get a marriage license? Well, if you're operating as a U.S. citizen, you have to, because once you get that marriage license, now you fall into this civil statutory maze of family court. If you join the military and you sign the enlistment papers, now you're under the jurisdiction of the military. Yeah, you get the driver's license, now you're under traffic court, etc. So all these civil statutory courts require our consent. How do we give our consent? Well, we apply. We sign up for it. We choose the domicile. If you domicile yourself in Florida, then California laws don't apply to you. Cannabis is legal here in Colorado, but if you drive across the border to Kansas, it's still illegal. And if you don't want to pay taxes, you move to New Hampshire. They have no income tax or sales tax. But if you live across the border in Massachusetts, you have to pay both. So all these civil statutory laws require our consent, and we do that by where we choose to domicile ourselves. They call them the residence. The res is the thing identified. The thing identified, this legal fiction entity that you're an officer of, that you think is you, isn't you. It's just this trust, and you're the trustee of this trust, but it's their property. It's kind of like when you go into the NFL league, right? You have this league called the NFL, and they have teams or franchises. They call them the Broncos franchise or the Patriots franchise. And, you know, John Elway, the human being, fills the office of quarterback, because these franchises have positions or offices, wide receiver, quarterback, running back. So John Elway fills the office of quarterback or the position of quarterback for the franchise, the Broncos, in the league, the NFL. So he has all these rules that apply to him that don't apply to you or I, you know, playing football in the park. None of the NFL rules apply to us. Only John Elway, because he signed the contract. He joined the league. If you set up a McDonald's franchise, McDonald's, they got that's the mothership corporation, and they have franchises. Well, what do they need? They need humans, franchisees, they call them, to run the franchise. So you sign up, you sign the contract, they make you go to McDonald's University. You got to learn how to make Big Macs. You can't sell Whoppers, only Big Macs, right? You got to wear the uniforms with the gold arches and what have you. And so you're the human, the franchisee, you're running the franchise. Now this franchise is property of McDonald's. If you mess up, they take it away from you and sell it to somebody else, because the franchise is their property. So, you know, you follow all these rules, and every time you sell Big Mac, you have to pay a kickback of money to the mothership corporation, McDonald's. Now you, the human, can have a side gig, mowing lawns and shoveling snow. You, the human, don't pay a kickback to McDonald's. Just the franchise pays the kickback, not you. So you just cross out that and call it USA Inc. They have these franchises or offices called U.S. Citizen. They need the human being to fill that office, to be the officer of the office, or the franchisee of the franchise, or the trustee of this trust. Okay, me, the human, is capital J, capital O, capital B, capital Y. But the office is capital J, capital O, capital B, capital Y, Inc. This is an entity. It's tied to your slave surveillance number, or your social security number. I call it a slave surveillance number.
That's exactly what it is.
It's exactly what it is. You signed up to be a slave. They can't enslave you, they can't use force to enslave you. You have to voluntarily sign up to be a slave. So you go from a free person where, like, the only rules are the common law, right? The criminal law, which is, you know, don't harm others, don't violate their property or their person, right? And so there's like 9 rules to follow, 10 rules, the 10 commandments, basically. And then you sign up to be a U.S. citizen, and you apply, you get the slave surveillance number, and now you got 250,000 pages of rules that now apply to you, that never applied to you before. Why would you do that?
Exactly.
Because you don't know, because you're compartmentalized, and none of the lawyers know, and the top, the 10 lawyers in this country that do know don't want anybody else to know, because it keeps the gravy train going. Because, and this can work with anything. If this is eBay, eBay's got a platform. If you voluntarily sign up and create an account on eBay, which is their property, not yours, just like you create a Facebook profile, that's Facebook's property, not yours. Your Apple ID is Apple's property, not yours. That's why they can track everything you do and everywhere you go and make trillions of dollars off your data, is because it's not yours, it's theirs. Okay? So when you voluntarily go on eBay and you say, I'm going to sell something, well, guess what? eBay's getting paid. You're using their platform. That's their property. Okay? So you got to use PayPal, and they get a fee. There's no law that says you can't not be on eBay and can't not go sell stuff at your yard sale on your front porch, out of your garage. If you sell stuff in your garage, you don't have to pay eBay fees. But when you sell on eBay, you do. And that's what they do. They created this franchise for you, this identity, solving for identity, and wait till they come out with your social credit score and your CBDCs and all this stuff. This entity is their property, USA Inc. They give it to you, and they say, hey, you can have this with strings attached, meaning this franchise makes money, you have to pay a kickback, W-2s, W-4s, 1099s, right? This is what they want to solve for identity. This is the entity they want you to set up a Coinbase account with, or a bank account, or hold title to real estate or your car in this entity, so that they can take your stuff with the asset forfeiture and eminent domain without which would normally violate the Fifth Amendment's takings clause, right? So they can just steal your stuff without due process because you don't own your house, you don't own the bank account, you don't own your car. They do because you put it in the name of the entity that they own. It's called taking and converting private property into whatever the word is. I hear an alarm going off that threw me off. But they convert our private property into shared property with the government. You, the human being, can have a side gig mowing lawns and shoveling snow and make money. You, the human, don't have to pay a kickback. Only the franchise has to pay a kickback. This entity, Joby, me, the flesh blood human being with rights, the American, can set up a Bitcoin wallet in 10 seconds. No ID necessary. But try to set up a Coinbase account and you got to show them your proof of residence, right? They want to know the jurisdiction. They want to put you in the box.
KYC.
KYC, yeah, and AML and all these types of things. So they created this Babylonian matrix of a sandbox, and no man can serve two masters. You either serve God or you serve the devil.
So when does the God law come in, and when would we get governmente out of our minds and out of our lives?
Yeah, government just means mind control. Well, if you signed up voluntarily for it, you can unsign up voluntarily for it. And I highly recommend everybody opt out.
And is there a way to do that? Are there classes? Where can people go to attend to learn what you know? Because I've been following people like you, and unfortunately, a gentleman that I interviewed a long time ago just passed away, David Straight, who's been preaching this for a long, long time. Just passed away April 1st on April Fool's Day. What a day to pass away! A great guy, and I'm grateful to him because he really gave me a big push start. And that video got like 119,000 views in less than a weekend. And it was an epic interview.
That was before the algorithms took over.
Yeah, well, the algorithms were bad, starting to get bad, but not nearly as bad as they are today. So, we all want to learn this stuff, but it's really not that easy. It's not. We have to simplify it for the masses to be able to absorb, right? Yeah. Right now.
Well, that was pretty simple. That was like two things.
Yeah,
right?
no, I understand. But when they go and confront these entities that are, the matrix, right, the box, we have to be able to speak a certain lingo to opt out of all these different things. Like there's a lady that I'm chasing right now, for example, a black lady who was showing a lot of great videos of people putting on their license plate, traveler.
Yeah.
And they're traveling with no insurance, no registration, nothing.
Well, you have a right to travel, but if you're going to drive a motor vehicle, those are commercial terms. Yeah. There's a private automobile, there's a motor vehicle.
Right.
There's a marriage covenant, there's a marriage license.
Correct.
So God creates mankind, right? God, man, church, right? And then the government wants to play God. So it goes God, government charters a 501c3 church. And this is how they can control the church. How you can't preach politics from the pulpit. And if you don't file these forms or that and do this or that, we take away your tax exempt status, right? Or you could just have a 508c1a church that it goes church God without government in between.
Yeah.
Like the Vatican. You think the Vatican, So they call them 508c1as. So it's like that for everything. Everything's been inverted. It comes down in terms of the driving with the birth certificate of the car. When you go and buy a car, and this is why Tesla got in trouble selling automobiles direct to the customer, because they wanted everything to go through a licensed dealer. So all the dealer associations were suing Tesla for selling cars direct. Because here's the scam. When you buy an automobile from a dealer that gets it from the manufacturer, and they sell it to you, you never get that certificate of origin. You got to ask for it. It's got to be a brand new car. Otherwise, you sign all the paperwork, and then what happens is they say, your title to your quote-unquote motor vehicle will show up in a week or two from now. There's little Mia. So they've converted your car, your automobile, into a motor vehicle. They're even doing this with motorcycles now, turning a motorcycle into a motor vehicle, because the DMV can only deal with motor vehicles. Right. And we, the people, haven't set up any other thing but the DMV. So it goes from private traveling to commercial stuff. Now you need a license. Now you got to have registration and pay for the tags. And you got to get insurance, which is You really only need proof of financial responsibility.
How do we undo the scam? Do you think that the Trump administrations or factions of the Trump administration know what you know and what I know to be fact? What you're talking about right there is total truth. I've been studying it. I can't talk about it eloquently as you because I'm spread like peanut butter and jelly. I'm pretty thin out there, okay? But the
You're
reality,
not enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, but I do know a lot about this stuff, and I do believe that this is the avenue we need to definitely go in. But how do we get this out to the masses to where we could say, here's a pamphlet. Let's teach you this stuff in a 4th grade, 5th grade level of education where they can grasp it and start to apply so that we can get away from the matrix.
Well, you know, or just get an AI that's already programmed with all the answers and have it just do it all for you.
I like that.
But you want to be able to defend your freedom too and know what the AI is talking about. So
Yes.
it just takes, you know, self-government isn't easy. Everybody wants to, you know, live in a world with no liability, right? They want everything else, you know, and we see it in everything. Limited liability companies.
Right.
Nobody wants to take responsibility for themselves and their lives, and they want the safety net, and they want to, you know, it's just everywhere. So I guess it's just coming down to if you are someone that is self-sufficient, that doesn't like to be bossed around and doesn't want to live in an HOA, you should have a right to do that. Let the people that want to be slaves live in an HOA and all that kind of stuff, great. Let them do that, but don't force it on me. I want to be free, and I'll take care of my life. I don't think Social Security is a very good use of money. As you can see, they're paying guys that are 150 years old, what, like 2 million people? How many people were over 200 years old? I mean, Elon said there was someone that was 300 years old on the Social Security thing.
Yeah.
So the whole thing's fraud. It's just a total scam, and we should be able to peacefully. We have a right to peacefully opt out. It's called the right of association, and we should not be punished for speaking the truth, which is what's happened to me as I start sharing truth and they come and suppress you. Hopefully not anymore. I'm hoping Team Trump, maybe they'll see this. I'm happy to consult with them and share with them what I've learned. I think maybe one of the reasons why I got kidnapped and bounced all around and, you know, was so I could sit in the law library and figure this stuff out. Because otherwise I would have just been bouncing around the world having fun and not paying attention. But now that I know, I feel like I have almost like this moral obligation to share it with others who want to be responsible for themselves and their own lives and not have to be dependent upon government. So we'll see what, you know, I'm available. I'm free to, I walk through doors that open, and if the door is closed, I just keep walking, you know? So I'd love to help restore the republic any way I can. Reading Ron Paul's books are a good place to start. Foreign Policy of Freedom, Liberty Defined, Pillars of Prosperity, and the Fed. Robert Kiyosaki books, learning how to leverage yourself so you don't have to trade time for money. You can have money work for you. That frees up your time so you can put some mental effort into reading how to structure yourself in a way that protects you and your family. It's all there at your fingertips. You just have to know the right questions to ask. Someone eventually will create a system that allows you to press a button, fill in the forms, you know, to do everything, to change your status from 8 U.S.C. 1401 U.S. citizen back to being an 8 U.S.C. 1101 American national. That auto changes your passport from being a U.S. citizen passport to an American national passport. I mean, you can look at your passport right now, front page, it says protect this citizen/national. They literally show you right to your face that there's two different statuses that you can voluntarily choose. So, I mean, it's right there. Instead of going and getting married with a marriage license, download a marriage covenant where you and your wife are getting married before God, not the legal fiction created by the state, marrying the legal fiction created by the state and bringing the state into that contract. Because when that happens, then you have your offspring. They use those kids as collateral for the debt. They can come kidnap your kids if you don't want to give them chemotherapy and radiation and vaccines and public school indoctrination camps. You don't want to give them jurisdiction. When you do that marriage license, you're bringing the state into everything you guys are doing. That footprint of your child hits that birth certificate/stock certificate, which creates these bonds that the government uses to fractionalize and hypothecate us. I mean, that's what money's backed by. It's backed by bonds, backed by birth certificates, backed by the government's ability to tax us. And then they charge us taxes to pay interest to this private banking cartel, the Fed, that creates the money out of nothing.
Yeah, so this fictitious contract that we all signed thinking that we're married, really, technically speaking, if you really want to get technical, right, we're really not married. It's all bullshit.
You, the human, is not marrying your wife, the human. It's the legal fiction marrying the legal fiction and bringing the state into it. And so, yeah, I mean, Ronald Reagan was talking, they had Peter Gray, the Grace Committee, they called it, and they audited the IRS, and they found that 100% of the personal income tax goes to pay interest on money that the Fed creates out of nothing. Not a dime of your personal income tax goes to pave the roads or pay the police officers or run the school system. It just goes to pay interest. When the Treasury could create the money interest-free and save us $1 trillion a year. You know, your property tax is what goes to pay the schools. The gasoline tax is what goes to pave the roads. That's not from your income tax. We went great for 100 plus years without a personal income tax. So everybody's like so blown away. Oh my God, Trump's gonna get rid of the IRS. I'm like, hello, the most wealthy people, the countries on the planet don't have income taxes. Have you ever been to Monaco? It's pretty nice, no income taxes. You go, there's so many great spots around the world, Isle of Man and Gibraltar and Jersey and Guernsey and Panama and, you know, the St. Kitts and all. You know, there's dozens and dozens of countries that are doing just well. They all have roads and nobody pays an income tax. So why not America? Why not make America's economy the hottest economy on earth?
I think we're on track to do that. I think Donald Trump knows a lot of what you're talking about, but he's got to bring in the people like yourself, consultants, that can basically teach this to the masses, because this
to teach it to his lawyers, because his bar attorneys don't know. Those guys are totally compartmentalized. They're not supposed to know. It's not their fault that they don't know. They're not supposed to.
And then some of these lawyers are brilliant, but they're brilliant. Their brilliance was trained.
Their brilliance is in their little specialty.
Exactly.
To see the forest from the trees. And that's where guys like me that think outside the box might be able to help. I'm totally happy to help and walk through the entire process with his team if they want. So here I am. Take my ankle bracelet off.
Yes, Washington, D.C. Here he comes.
I'm working on it. I filed a bunch of motions and stuff. You know, case dismissed and dropped the charges. I'm trying to go all the way back to the indictment. You know, and attack the indictment itself.
Now, you filed against the IRS, the SEC. You filed against everybody. Six judges, exactly.
Bunch of agents, the clerks.
Yeah. Have they responded?
Yeah, the judge came out the other day, and I did a motion to compel because the government was just ignoring me. I filed a motion, nothing. So I did a motion to compel. So the judge told the government, hey, you need to respond to this motion, this motion, this motion, this motion, which they can't. They're screwed. And so yesterday, they were like, dear judge, can we please have an extension till April 22nd? Because this was all supposed to go down April 8th. Today's the 4th, right? So 4 days from now, we were supposed to get this thing. Of course, they push it out. It's not like they haven't had 5 years. So I filed it. So they filed this thing. I filed like a minute later my objection to their extension. The judge doesn't even know that I filed something because the government slipped it to the I know this is what happened because the judge granted the government's request without knowing that I had made an objection. So today, the judge, I see something on the docket. The judge was kind of, I could see was kind of like, whoops, I gave him approval without seeing if you objected or not. So he writes, if you need an extension for your response to the government's motion, I'm going to pre-authorize that for another week. I'm like, I don't want another week with this stupid thing on. I got a baby coming June 25th. I want to get out of my parents' house. I need to get my own place.
Right.
Can you imagine? I've been living in this house for 20 years and I've been stuck. I can't go anywhere, do anything, and I really am tired of it. This needs to end. It's enough.
I believe you're right. I hope to God that they take that darn thing off. I mean, based on what you're telling me, and I think anybody who's watching this is going to come to the same conclusion. How the hell did they get away with incarcerating you between, bouncing around for 11 months from prison,
they break their own
and
laws.
now five years without a trial, no due process whatsoever.
Well, now you know why I'm suing them for $22.2 billion.
Right.
It's because it's illegal. What they're doing is totally against the law. The The court is out of order, fraud upon the court, prosecutor misconduct. I read that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Do you think we need to shrink the government? Do you think we have way too much government? Do you think, look at what we're finding with DOGE, Department of...
Let's just go back to the Constitution and the de jure republic. Let's just dissolve the de facto corporate state. Dude, can you imagine if that happened?
There are people getting paid.
It's called freedom.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
There are people getting paid in the government with agencies that nobody ever even visits. And they got 29 fictitious people with
on the
payroll, and all that money channels to one person, right?
Yep.
And these people are yelling bloody murder because the gravy train is about to end.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that
why aren't we throwing all these people in jail? It's total fraud. They came after me.
That's my
I harmed
point.
no one. I stole nobody's property. I mean, you Google me. It looks like I took $700 million.
Right.
But they always leave out the fact that we mined 92,000 Bitcoins.
Yeah.
500,000 Ethereum. That's $10 billion. So if you're taking $700 million, you pay back $5 billion.
Right.
Who are the victims?
Yeah. But my argument is very simple. You got beyond irrevocable evidence at this point that these people have robbed the American people through illegal taxation. There's fictitious people that don't even exist with fictitious social security number that channel all to one person to a department that nobody ever goes to, making all kinds of crazy money, right? We found fraud beyond any shadow of a doubt, and people are still walking free.
It's because
they're arresting you, and they don't even have a case.
I know, but it's because that all these powerful people have dirt. There's dirt on them. They're all blackmailable. So they don't... Look at the Epstein client list. No one's been arrested. Why? Because Mossad has all this dirt on all these politicians. And the second they don't do what they say, you don't stroke those checks.
Tapes are coming out.
Those tapes come out. Look at P. Diddy. Thought he had... Look, everybody is compromised. Most everybody in these positions of power. They won't let you get into a position of power without having some dirt on you to be able to control you. I mean, that was the whole thing about Patrick Byrne coming out. He said the FBI came to him to bribe Hillary Clinton for $8 million or whatever it happened to be. And so that the FBI could have on camera, Hillary Clinton taking a bribe. So that when she won the White House against Trump in 2016, Obama could still control her. Look at Biden, what he did. There's so much blackmail stuff on Biden. I mean, it's how...
So that's how they're able to control the whole thing until now with no arrests.
They gotta get dirt on all these people before they allow them into these positions of power so that they can then control them. So that's what it's all about, is everybody... But
there's a new administration. There's Pam Bondi, there's Kash Patel, there's all these guys.
It seems to me like they're pure. It seems to me like... that's why I like Trump. Is rich. He doesn't need to take a bribe. Like, we need billionaires to come in and fix everything because these guys aren't going to be...
Good question.
Taking
so what do you think?
The table.
So what do you think of guys like Grant Cardone potentially wanting to run for governor of California?
I think he would be great. Better than Newsom.
Absolutely.
So I just think that there's intelligence agencies out there that their whole purpose in life is to get dirt on people to be able to control them through blackmail and extortion.
Right.
And so otherwise, none of this makes any sense. Why would we vote?
Well, we need to
restructure.
We need to restructure everything. Okay. The car insurance is fraud. Registering your car is fraud. All of the stuff, the illegal tickets on the road. These are, as far as I'm concerned, another form of taxation, which is being traded. All of this stuff, it's got to go. It's got to be cleaned up. We cannot continue down this pattern. Okay, expect that things are going to be hunky-dory. I don't give a shit how many tapes they have on who. Get the tapes out. Let's get the arrests done. Let's go into a different system because we need it.
Yeah, but you see even with RFK this week.
Yeah.
They're trying to do some kind of sex thing because he just fired like 10,000 people. It's like, dude, okay, so you think that it's better to use whatever texting thing. I don't even know the story, but I just watched the news and I'm like, okay, so it's better to get rid of the guy that wants to save millions of lives and kids to stop autism and all this poisons in our food and all that kind of stuff. Literally, the impact to positively benefit millions of people, and they want to just use a texting thing so that get him out, so that millions of people die. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Even if he had an affair, who cares? Who literally cares? I'd rather have a guy with an affair that saves 5 million people than a guy without an affair that allows 5 million people to die.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Governor Cuomo.
it's just a horrible, you know. So yes, there's lots of fraud. People should have a choice. I want to be a slave or I want to be free. If they want to be a slave, let them. If they want to be free, great. Stop.
Right now, I'm in the midst of putting together something that I hope to get to Donald Trump as quickly as humanly possible. Because right now, someone else is in charge of the microphone. You and I are not in charge of the microphone. We have a town square that someone else is in charge.
Yeah, you're talking social media.
Yeah,
Facebook,
we're talking social
Instagram.
media. We're talking.
Well, thank God for Twitter.
Well, thank God for, but that's only one, right?
I know. Well, let's clone what's going on with Twitter. I mean, I agree with what you were saying. You know, I had the belief that, look, it's private property, it's their platform, they can make the rules. If you don't like it, go to a different
But you're
platform.
operating in the United States. You have to
so
operate
you got to
under,
follow the Constitution.
Right, you have to follow the Constitution. That's the argument. I think that's a very winnable argument because you're doing business in the United States. You have laws that these. And we're talking about the Republic.
April 14th, Meta is going to be broken up. This whole antitrust stuff that's happening. Mark Zuckerberg's been to the White House like 10 times in the last month.
But his platform is still being censored.
Of course. So maybe Trump's saying, you don't want to get shut down? Follow the Constitution.
The hammer's going to have to come down.
What you're saying right now, maybe the algorithms stop. I mean, I put out my sizzle reel for my movie. You can see it at jobyweeks.com. But I put that out the day it went out, 150,000 views. Next day, 0. Next day, 0. Next day, 0.
Wow.
The guys at Google, I know this for a fact because I'll Google Joby Weeks on Grok and it tells like the whole story about me and now I'm suing the government, all this great stuff. It cites like 27 websites. I go on the Google one and I type Joby Weeks and it's only citing the Department of Justice, 2 sites, not 15, 2.
Right.
Obviously, there's intelligence people that don't want what I'm saying to get the masses, right?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
I even tried to pay $500 just to see if YouTube would do it, and YouTube sent the $500 back. They didn't even give me the courtesy of putting fake bots on it to keep my $500. They just sent it back.
Unbelievable.
I was like, okay. So, you know, the algorithms need to... It's David versus Goliath. That's what's happening. And God came. God was there. Daniel in the lion's den. He was there. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You know, we take that step. Peter stepped out into the water, didn't sink. Well, he did sink a little bit later because he kind of took his eyes off Jesus and kind of started to sink. But God wants us to take the step, and then He'll catch us.
Right.
But He doesn't. Nobody respects a
I take a lot of steps, and I take a lot of, risks.
Yeah,
and this is about taking a lot of risks. We're putting our life on the line because I'm going to tell you flat out, the people that believe in communism and Marxism, they are willing to die for their cause. And if you're going to win these people over, if you're going to, outdo what they're trying to do to us, you have to be willing to die for your cause. They're willing to die. They're all in. They're committed.
I've taken my step. I've done my part. I'm speaking the truth. I filed the docs. I fired the lawyers. I've done my part. God has to rescue me. And I think God wants to do that anyways because He wants to get credit.
Right.
If I did it all myself, then I'd be haughty and boastful and braggadocious, kind of like Tate.
Sure.
We were talking about it. And
I like Tate.
I like a lot of his stuff, but the guy's me. I'm
the ego is like enormous.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be like that. I want to be humble. I want to give God the
glory. Sort of like me and you. I mean, I'm maybe less humble than you are, but I'm still compared to.
I'm the
Tate,
most humble guy in the world, bro. I'm so humble. I don't know anybody more humble than me.
Compared to Tate, I think we're both extremely humble.
Yeah. The whole world is. But,
yeah.
I've come to these epiphanies that, like, we've been blessed with life, and God always uses the most interesting people, the most least likely guys to make. Matthew, the tax collector. I mean, you watch The Chosen show, my favorite. I love that show. They're in the theaters now. I can't go because I'm on an ankle bracelet. But I'm waiting for it to stream. But watching The Chosen, we're watching the one on King David. I feel like I can relate to a lot of these Bible characters because, my name is Job, and we remember the oldest book of the Bible is Job, and the kind of game God and Satan we're playing, and so I'm kind of going through that. I actually Googled what Joby means. It means persecuted. I called Mom. I'm like, did you know that you named me persecuted? Why did you name me that, Mom? It's like, she's like, well, Jobadiah, Job, it was a billionaire and Obadiah was a prophet. You're going to be a billionaire prophet. I'm like, my middle name is Sinclair. That means without clarity. Sin without clarity. Right. Like still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. You know?
Exactly.
But, you know, I'm Peter, Paul. Paul was bouncing around from jail to jail too, you know, and I've been betrayed. You know, I've had my Judas Iscariot Jesus moments. And, you know, I think it's just interesting. I feel like now I'm Moses kind of, or feeling like Moses, you know, Pharaoh, let my people go, you know, and bringing the law,
Yes.
bringing the biggest secret, and pulling the wool that's been pulled over everybody's eyes. I would love to dive deep with the powers that be and help restore the republic. And
Yeah, that's what
so
it's
maybe
all-
I'm now Moses.
Well, that's what it's about, man. It's about restoring the republic. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
And letting our people
I
go.
agree.
There's so many people like me stuck in jail. I mean, the reason the government has a 97% success rate in convictions is because they kidnap everybody and throw everybody in jail first. They deny them the preliminary hearing, denying them the bail. They deny them the trial. You know, so you got some poor guy that can barely read sitting here for 2 years. Like, I met a ton of guys that couldn't read, didn't know what constitutional rights meant. I'm the guy that's sitting there in the law library. I got 10 people lined up to like have me fire their lawyers and get them bail. And I had nothing else to do, so I just practiced writing these motions and everything. And I helped a lot of people. They kept moving me from tier to tier to tier to tier. I'm talking to these guys, and they've been in jail for 2 years, never even got a preliminary hearing, never even got indicted. They have a right to get indicted, and you have a right to be convicted by a jury. Jury's the last line of defense. And they get everybody to not know their rights by sending them to public school so they know nothing about law. You can graduate college and never take one class on law, so nobody knows about it. Then they end up in jail for stupid stuff that doesn't harm anybody. You know, massive amounts of people in jail for victimless crimes that shouldn't even be there in the first place. They sit there for 2 years, and the government's like, all right, we got to eventually give you a trial. It's been 2 years, so next week's going to be the trial. And if you fight us and you lose, you're going to get 20 years in jail. But if you just sign this piece of paper right here, we'll let you go tomorrow. And the guy's sitting there like, wait, I signed this piece of paper, I go home to my family? Tomorrow? Or I fight you, and if I lose, I sit here for another 20 years? Give me the piece of paper. Everybody signs.
Of course.
So now the government's got a 97% success rate in convictions. They're criminals. They're criminals. Those are the guys that should be in jail, are the guys doing this.
These are government gangsters. There's no question.
Government
about it.
gangsters, as Cash Patel says.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And we got to fix it, because you know what? If this goes unanswered much longer, listen, thank God we got Donald Trump in. Thank God.
I'm still waiting for the Epstein people to get arrested. I'm still waiting. I really hope this happens soon, Pam Bondi. Please.
He's
Start
talking
throwing
about
these people in jail.
He's talking about being president until 2037 now. Did you hear about that?
Well, there'd have to be a constitutional amendment for that, you know, so.
I mean, I would love
Wow,
that.
I mean, that's like, he's going to be like 95 years old then.
But we have
I mean, he does
technology.
have a lot of energy.
We have technology
Put him in
coming.
a med bed, and,
There you
know,
go.
it would take 20
We
years
have
off
the
his life, get him sleeping in scalar bubbles.
Don't
You
you
know?
want to know what's in those 6,000 patents? You're a capitalist. You're an entrepreneur. Don't you want to
100%.
know? Don't you want to know what they're hiding from us? How much free energy devices where we don't have to pay and be on the treadmill paying the energy company so that we could turn the lights on? Who the hell are you paying? Who the hell owns this planet? Who the hell's the boss?
Some very
here?
powerful people. It's all energy. That's why Bitcoin is money, because it's energy. That's why gold and silver is money, because it's energy. That's all we're doing is trading energy around. Everything is energy. And yeah, I mean, that's why you don't patent disruptive technologies in the United States, because they come and classify it or kill you or burn
They
your
have
lab to the
killed. They
ground.
have killed many.
They do. I didn't watch Stephen Greer's movie, The Lost Century. He goes over some brilliant, you know, inventors that have had world-changing, planet-changing, universe-changing tech.
Yeah.
And it's just suppressed. So, you know, you have to put it up on the blockchain. You got to open source it. You got to not be greedy and hold it, because then you get whacked and it's done. It's right. So you got to freely give. Well, and that's one of the things. These inventors don't know how to market. The marketers don't know how to invent, and everybody's holding it because everybody's greedy. And this is my baby.
Right.
You do that,
Yeah.
it's never gonna hit the masses, and you're gonna probably get whacked, or your lab's gonna get burned, or it's gonna get classified. The Men in Black show up. So open source it, give it away, put it on the blockchain, let people 3D print it, and call it a day, and make money some other way. Because if you try to capitalize on this tech, you get whacked.
Yeah.
And just watch that documentary if you want.
Well, what I would like to do now is, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to your house.
Of course, thanks for coming.
Thank you for feeding us.
It's nice to have guests.
Yeah, you know what? We're breaking the rules, we're breaking the laws, but you know what? I really don't give a shit. When you said that, I said, that's great. I said, thank you for telling me now that we're breaking the law. You know?
I'm not breaking any laws.
Well,
just, bail
breaking the law according to them, right?
You got to give them a 72-hour notice that you're going to have a guest. Or,
For what?
It's or a 72-hour notice that I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm like, what if my wife goes into labor today? You want me to put a 72-hour notice and have her wait as her water breaks?
Right.
I'm going to a freaking doctor, whether you give me permission or not. If Tucker Carlson has me on, which I had dinner with you, Tucker, and you told me you'd have me on your show, and last time we spoke, you were in Saudi Arabia, and you said you'd give me a ring, to have me on your show, and then your dad died. I'm sorry about that. Your dad sounded like a great guy. Listen, you put me on your show, and I will take a pair of scissors, and I'll cut this off on your show. I'll do it right now. You put me on your show, I'll cut it off. Let's go.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Steve Bannon was here last Friday. I'd love to be on your show, Steve. You said you'd have me on your War Room show. I'm ready. Let's tell the story.
Steve was here?
He was in Colorado. I couldn't go, but my wife and parents went and had a chat with him.
Uh-huh.
Roger Stone, love to be on your show. My lawyer said, you shouldn't be a martyr. He thought what I'm doing would make me a martyr.
Well,
so the only way that this would be a success is if you had 10 million people behind you.
Right.
And I haven't made a post on social media in 6 years.
Yeah.
I don't have 10 million people behind me.
It doesn't matter. They won't see it anyway.
They won't matter, yeah.
It was. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to CarminesGold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple. Time is of the essence as the walls are closing in. This crash is visibly in motion right now. Don't kid yourself. The only way to preserve wealth is to become your own central bank. Just by owning gold and silver, the banks that are going into survival mode are currently stacking gold and silver like it's going out of style. You have the same opportunity instead of keeping your money in paper, which is worthless. Again, this is not financial advice. Going into survival mode is everything. Preserving your wealth and positioning your family to thrive in the near future is paramount. The time to take action is beyond crucial. God's money cannot be faked. It's got intrinsic value. It's got plenty of usability. And because the crypto game could be extremely complicated for most, this becomes the only way to preserve your wealth in the current times we live in. The price manipulation that has occurred over the last 150 years is about to come to a full stop as we move into an extremely different world. And the true value of gold and silver is going to shine like never before. The people who vividly see what's happening have moved into panic buying right now. The people who get it, who are positioned for wealth preservation, who are accumulating every week, every month, stand to change their course of history for 100 generations to come. Buying gold and silver from CarminesGold.com at unbeatable prices is the best decision you'll ever make. I'm going to end by saying this. This is my opinion and not financial advice. This crash is knocking on the door, and it's clear. It's here. We can fill any size order, $500, $500,000, and yes, even $10 million. Your best option to preserve wealth, if you don't understand cryptocurrency, is gold and silver. Do it now.